Oh, what do you say there, fitness family? Welcome to another episode of Taking Care of Fitness podcast. Um, Something I had seen this weekend was really interesting to me. I'm a sports nut basically. I'm a sports junkie. Always have been, always will be. It's the one. It's one of the many areas that I have that I'm crazy invested in, as I am with. As well as health, nutrition, exercising, weightlifting, all that good stuff. And since it is football season, thank God, there was several posts and stories. I even saw them covered during the game. I believe last week on Ravens running back Derrick Henry and what he does to keep his body up to par with maintenance and diet and whatnot. And let me just say that Henry, if case you're not familiar, is a really big dude who's sort of a throwback to the days of the NFL when it was a run heavy league, which I think it still is to some extent. And he was just he's an unstoppable force, very similar to the unstoppable running backs of the past, similar to a little bit not the same, but kind of similar to Mike Alstott, although Henry is more diverse and more of a quicker when I mean in terms of Mike Alstott, I'm talking about guys who can hit the hole hard, and pummel through for several yards after contact, as well as being the focal point of a team's offense, which we saw this past weekend, where he carried the ball. I don't know what it was, 42 times, but I found it really interesting, the information about him, about how he takes care of himself. So I'm looking at an article right now about the maintenance that he goes through each year, and it says he spends about $250,000 on body maintenance, which includes diet and as well as exercise and staying away from some food. And my reason for bringing this up is because I think a lot of people not in his situation can do the same. Now, obviously, we may not be able to spend $250,000 on maintenance, but there are so many things we can do that won't cost us that much money. For instance, you could take care of your body as best you can. Whether it's exercise, stretching, yoga, Pilates, powerlifting, cardio, doing all the stuff you can. And in terms of recovery too, whether it's peptides if you choose, whether it's if you're able to get them, because they're making them unlawful, which is bullshit. Or if you have the means to do some PRP to certain injuries, use lidocaine, use stem cells, maybe even in some areas. So you can do things. You definitely have the ability. I think even if you're not making that type of money or you are a prime time professional athlete, he spends more than $250,000 on what he calls body maintenance. Like I said, okay, so this is what I found most interesting. No fried food, no dairy, no gluten, no artificial sugars. Doesn't eat until 4 or 5 o'clock during the season. Maybe has a banana or avocado before practice. Now, of course, I'm not a professional athlete, but I will say this: I do similar things, or at least try to. I don't eat fried food at all. Okay, I stopped doing that. Well, not to be a hypocrite, and a lot of Italian people here will be able to agree with me. I will make an exception for my mother's meatballs, which are fantastic. And if you know me and you know my mother's a fantastic cook. Maybe it's an Italian thing. It probably is. But there's where I do make an exception. But that's, once and whenever. So other than that, I don't fry anything. Okay. All my meats are grilled. All my meats are baked. Frying, no way, man. So I stay away from fried foods at all for various reasons. I've read a lot of information from some sources that are both questionable and I think questionable yet interesting. And then I've seen the same report several times, but according to what I've read, fried foods can heavily, especially when you're depending on what the oil they use that they're fried in and the temperature that they used to be fried in, can have a really big effect on obviously uh, unhealthy cholesterol. Also can increase blood pressure. Also, can also have a hand in aging you faster. So what I do sometimes is if I need something in a pinch and I don't have any oils to use to make something, I will use water, which could be a pain in the neck because you have to keep applying it, and it does cause sort of a stick with the food. But I don't use any fried foods. Dairy is a tough one. I don't drink milk. I eat. I don't. I'm not a cheese person. Okay. Occasionally, I will have whipped cream on when I cheat with my peanut butter, which I guess is I get made fun of for my cheating. So I don't really eat a lot of dairy. No gluten. I stay away from gluten big time. Um, no artificial sugars. I really keep clear of those artificial sugars as best as I can, probably for 90 to 95% of the time. Now, they said he doesn't eat until 4 or 5 o'clock during the season. Now, I've been practicing intermittent fasting for about 4.5 to 5 years. For me personally, it's made a big difference in my life. I've seen a lot of weight loss. I've seen my numbers go down in terms of cholesterol. My blood sugar was lowered. My blood pressure was much lower, and I feel 10 times better than ever. And another thing is, I really look forward to eating when I'm in a fasted state. Plus, when I'm in a fasted state, preferably in the higher amount of hours, maybe 20 to 24, I feel like I have so much energy. I feel like I have electricity flowing through my body. So for me, it works. For all the naysayers, that's their problem. I know it works for me, and I know a lot of other people that practice that, but I do the same thing. I don't believe in breakfast anymore. I used to be the biggest breakfast hound. I was a cereal junkie. Cocoa Pebbles, Fruity Pebbles, Dino's, Ass Pebbles, whatever there is, Spacely Sprockets, Pebbles, whatever the fuck. Cocoa Puffs, Lucky Charms, you name it. Pancakes up the ass, Lego My Ego, Pop Tarts, all that shit that's real, not real food. So I was a breakfast person at one time, but I haven't been a breakfast person in a long time, and I don't miss it whatsoever. Occasionally, if I'm on vacation and I'm at a place that does serve breakfast, I will have, eggs, fruit, what have you. But for the most part, 90 to 95% of the time, I don't miss it. And I don't understand why people are big on breakfast, and it makes me flash back to when we were in elementary school and you would eat in the morning, go to school, and you would either crash most likely or you would be hungry again. Whereas, and maybe it's different for children's systems and whatnot. And of course, this doesn't always work for everybody. There are people that need to eat for their metabolism, if they have low blood sugar, if they're diabetic, God forbid. So this doesn't umbrella everybody, but I'm just saying, I thought breakfast was just so overrated. I think the more you can abstain from it and fill that time maybe with caffeine, some coffee, some green tea, a lot of water, I don't know, over time you feel so much better and you don't miss it. Plus you are in a negative calorie, you're deficient in calories at that time, so if you're active or something like that, that's always a good thing too. I think it's silly when people say you can't be in a fasted state and exercise and lift heavy. I do it all the time, and I'm not bragging whatsoever. So I thought that was interesting. And then, of course, they say that maybe he'll eat a banana until 5 o'clock or something, healthy. And I think that those guidelines, those rules right there, can apply to everybody. I think if most people applied that, that doesn't cost $250,000. You can get all that for free. So that's something I think people should take into consideration, using those regular steps, and I think they will see a big difference. Um, Obviously he's committed to this because he feels that it's really helped his body, and if you watch him, you can tell. Um, it's discipline, obviously, like anything else in life, but you do get accustomed to it after a while. So he is one of these athletes that I found this really interesting about. And, of course, there's other athletes that do the same thing, spend a lot of money on the maintenance. I know LeBron was another one, and, have a certain diet and whatnot, all with the plan of staying around longer. So I think, again, like, these are things that everyone can do for free. LeBron James reportedly spends $1.5 million every year to keep his body in prime shape. as did Tom Brady, as did Russell Wilson. And it would make sense because all these guys went on to have long careers. There are certain levels to how you maintain your body as an aging professional athlete, but staying away from fried foods, dairy, gluten, and artificial sugars seems to be working for Henry. The same should apply to us. The same applies to us. You don't have to be a professional athlete to do these things. I'm telling you, if you applied these things, I believe, or if you applied them most of the time, you will definitely see a difference, especially if you're someone that's struggling with weight loss, obesity, maybe you've plateaued in your diet. I think that these are things that you can use to definitely find a lot of success. Dairy is a really strange one because there are people who absolutely love dairy. Now there's this whole raw milk craze. I know Dr. Paul Saladino is big on it. I hey, if you like dairy, I don't. I personally do like some butter every now and then. I use Kerry's Irish Gold with the olive oil, extra virgin olive oil infused. But other than that, I try and I just don't have a taste for it anymore. Plus, at a time I was lactose intolerant. I'm not really sure if being lactose intolerant is something you can grow out of or something that you can move past as your system grows more mature. But I know that in my mid to late teens, I definitely had a lot of experience with lactose intolerance, and I had to drink lactate at the time. But since that time, I have not really had that much dairy whatsoever, and I've felt the benefits of it at least. When I did have it, it didn't really affect me as much anymore. So again, I think that these are tools that we can all use to help and better ourselves, and you don't have to be this super famous athletes to do so, because I think a lot of the hacks out there you can do for free. You can find a lot of them online. I mean, just by getting up and walking every day, trying to increase those steps. I mean, that's another thing. I see that the sweet spot for walking, some people say 8 to 10,000, some people say 12 to 14. I say do what you can, but the more you walk, the more you move, the better, to a point where you're not even paying attention to it no more, and it just becomes habitual. Especially if you have a job that requires you to walk around a lot of the time, and you get yourself a Fitbit or a foot tracker. It definitely makes a difference in your life, especially physically and mentally, because now you're accomplishing a lot by getting all these steps in. Plus, if you're walking up and down stairs all day, they say slow, steady cardio is really good for fat burn. You're trying to bring your heart into a different level. So again, I think that these are a lot of things that a lot of us can use. When it comes to fried foods, I don't know why anybody would want to really delve into it. I mean, unless there was Zeppelis or, like we said, meatballs, that were really good. Then I could see every once in a while going off the reservation. But I can't imagine for the life of me doing it every day. I mean, that's absolutely catastrophic. So I can only imagine what some people do. The whole gluten thing, a lot of people will consider it to be a farce, but I too have found that when I started that whole gluten-free thing, I did feel a difference in my gut, as opposed to when I did uh, introduce gluten to it. There definitely, for me at least, was something there. I mean, you could definitely feel the difference. Um, and again, like I said, I mean, if he's a professional athlete that's playing professional football and he doesn't eat till 4 or 5, I mean, God bless him, because I'm sure he practices before that or a couple of times during the week in that window where he's not taking in calories, but he's burning a lot of them. So it's definitely beneficial. I'll say that much. Even if you start off doing 10 hours, excuse me, preferably when you're asleep, and you go from there and increase the hours, or you set it up that you're going to fast certain days, and then the rest of the time you're going to do your usual thing or do your better thing. I think that's great too. The more and small increments that you make with these things and use them cohesively, I think you're going to see more results for yourself, and you don't have to be a professional athlete and spend $250,000. Although, I mean, if I was them, I'd be doing the same things times 10, because their body, literally their physical body, is what carries them, is their business, especially when you're playing such intense sports. In basketball's 82 games a year, hockey's 82 games, baseball's what, 162. Football is a very dangerous 17 games. So all those sports, you have to be up to par, and you got to keep that body going as much as you can. So I would be doing the same thing that they are. I hope that in the future, these treatments and will get a lot more cheaper, get a lot more FDA friendly. Although I don't think the FDA, for political and business reasons, is ever going to give these things the green light, because they may actually work and they may actually help, and there's nothing beneficial in it for the FDA financially. But little by little, like I said, we're living at a great time where all these things are out there for us to use, and there are people who are showing us and giving us the information out there, whether it's hackers, or biologists, or athletes, or nutritionists. I think that these are all things out there that we have to look into for our singular self and see if it's going to work for us, and see it's what's required of us, and then come away with the things we know we can use that will definitely chip away. Because as I tell people who are always trying to, lose weight or become more muscular, what have you, just start doing something, man. So you want to lose weight, start walking more. That's it. Get out there and walk. You want to lose weight, maybe abstain 2 days a week from breakfast. Try that. Go small. Or have your last meal at a good time at night, and then don't eat again until the morning if that's your deal. Like, I think that it does a couple of things. I think that it really makes you appreciate when you're going to eat, because you're really hungry. And it also makes you appreciate, at least it does for me, food. And I think it's a good stretch and test for your body to see how, what you can go without, to make yourself mentally sharp, spiritually sharp as well, but to also give your cells and your body a break. Because what I've read, in a way I agree with, is how the digestive system spends an exuberant amount of energy when it comes to digesting food. And therefore, when you give that a rest, supposedly you're rebuilding, you're getting rid of the dirty cell material, the old cell material. I could be just butchering that, but that would make a lot of sense too. I think from a pragmatic standpoint, a lot of that does make sense. Plus, you see a lot of people that do intermittent fasting, whether for religious reasons or certain times of the year, and a lot of them have benefits. I know people personally who have got involved in the intermittent fasting and have seen their pre-diabetes 2 numbers drop down low without drugs. So that's always a good thing. So again, there are things that we can do to get us, or at least to kind of bridge the gap, or to keep us ascending upward, uh, in a positive sense. And my hope is for the future that these treatments become more mainstream, a lot cheaper. Maybe certain insurance covers it. I don't see it happening for other reasons, but it is a hope of mine. I want to remain optimistic. So I thought that this was really interesting, to get on the Derrick Henry thing, because again, he does play in a grueling sport. It's a wonderful sport, I believe. He hardly misses any games, 17 games a year. He carries the ball a lot, as we saw this past Sunday. He's basically the bell cow and the face of that offense for the Baltimore Ravens. At least he is near the goal line. So obviously, he's got to keep his body in tip-top form and shape at all times. So, again, we're a lot of us aren't professional athletes, but we can harness the knowledge there, and try and find the hacks and things that work for us, perhaps on a much cheaper level. Or if you have the means, the good thing is you can go and see these places, these clinics, which may not be in the States, which are in Panama or Mexico, or like BioAccelerator is one that does all the stem cells in Medellin. So, like I said, I think the future is really bright for this. We just really have to decipher and go past the bullshit, see past the bullshit, see around the bullshitters who are just trying to sell us snake oil. And, really, hopefully in the future, we'll see a lot of naturopaths and homeopathic doctors who have real and solid credentials and science behind them. We'll see their a lot of the positivity come to fruition. And, I hope that they'll be more prevalent, or allowed to be, amongst the medical community. So, again, just that's something I wanted to talk about tonight. Thank you for listening. I will be coming back at you with some more content for the Taking Care of Fitness podcast. Peace.